this fade to black, and the thought of the wasted dreams of a nation down on its knees. Is it already over? Is it already over? Get your tickets to the circus show. If you don't, then you'll never know. Take a stand while you have the time. Drown your fear and keep hope alive. Be the change that you want to see. Be the wrench inside the machine. Is it already over? Is it already over? I don't think it's over. Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. Welcome to Small Town Underground. This is the normal Wednesday night show at the original normal time, 9 p.m. And this is your host, your failed podcaster host from Northwest Georgia, Roy here. And it's good to be back tonight. I'm doing a solo show tonight, so first off, y'all pray for me because I've just had a lot of notes today, and just like normal, a crazy 90-0 day. That's what my off days are. I get pulled in all kinds of different directions. Not unlike many of you out there, we're going 90-0, and the information never ceases to stop coming at us. So as I get prepared here, I've shared out to some of the groups. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and get it out to the groups. And as always, I have the phone number up tonight. I will be taking calls. I only plan to do an hour, but we all know how that goes. So feel free to call in. Let me know how you're feeling out there, what you're seeing, anything that you guys want to talk about. I do have several topics that I'm going to touch on because I feel like that. I just feel like that we've got a lot to talk about now. Tomorrow morning. Now, for some reason, Steve Phillips and his crew has taken a liking to me, and they've asked me to be back again with them on the Deep Dish, and that's the morning radio show that they do, and it's a lot of fun. I think they got a great crew over there, and I pretty much just kind of go into it ready to talk about whatever they want to talk about. So y'all make sure to tune in. I'll make sure to post a link. It'll be in the morning at 8 o'clock from 8 to 9. So I'm really excited. Those guys got something good going on, and I want to take this moment as a little reflection to where we started with all of this and where we're at now. And to me, it's a milestone because, again, some of the greatest people that we get to talk to and share ideas with around and create this space where we can talk. And I know that sometimes the conversation is not the greatest. The truth tends to sting a little. It hurts a little when you have to look at something dead in the eye. But I mean, just, being like with Antonio War Room and just how close that we've gotten. And he had Kim's Coffee Talk on there today and a bunch of great guests to be a part of that. The discussions that we're having on a local level, like I never dreamed that when I first started with the Second Amendment stuff, we had a lot of support back then. A lot of people were they were adamant about helping us. Oh man, we're going to protect gun rights. We're going to protect gun rights, and they did for a while until COVID, knocked all of it out. But the thing is, it's a simple issue to get behind, man. Guns. Oh yeah, we're going to protect your guns, but the rest of the Constitution and the rest of any other laws or vaccines or like draconian legislation that goes against the Constitution, well, that's a different story, and it's a lot harder. So much easier if you're just paying attention to something like guns. Everybody's your best friend, and they're we're going to protect them. Don't worry about it. But whenever we're talking about unborn lives, protecting them, or trying to keep vaccines and shots away from your family, that's a whole different story. And but anyway, I just thought I would share how blessed that we all are, that I am, that I get to share this space with you guys, and that it's been keeps growing. And I really don't know. Don't want anybody to take this at heart. I don't know how much longer that I can keep it up. I'm not planning on going anywhere, but it's taxing. And I'm really excited about the local issues we're working on, but we're gonna keep rolling this thing at least till the end of the year. But again, it's not any fun without you guys. So appreciate everybody out there, man. But anyway, again, feel free to call in tonight. I'm taking any calls. I really want to hear. Every now and then I like to be reassured that I'm not crazy, or I want to be told how crazy I am. So we can discuss that. So before I start with the clips, and excuse me, I didn't even tell anybody about this. I didn't tell Antonio or anybody about this, but I woke up this morning with sort of a providential, like, I don't know what it was, but it was something in my stomach, in my brain, in my heart, telling me to reach out to somebody today whom I haven't talked to in a while. And I don't really want to name names or anything like that. So I decided to send a text this morning because I've got a whole bunch of notes here and a whole bunch of stuff that I've been thinking about, and how am I going to get this out in an hour. And so I've sent the text, and they texted me, actually called me. I asked if they could speak today, and they called me. And it was an amazing conversation from somebody that I truly, truly respect, who's out there, one of the best activists I know. Follow their stuff all the time. And I really just wanted to ask this question to them. I wanted to know, am I crazy? Am I crazy what I'm seeing and how I'm putting some of this stuff together, and what's going on? Like, I feel like I'm crazy. And not only did they assure me that I wasn't crazy, but everything that they were telling me was pretty much what I had kind of wrote down before that we spoke. And I don't know sometimes how to handle that. I don't know how to handle that kind of like providence, or like, God, give me a sign. Am I on the right track? Are we, where are we supposed to be? Just trying to follow truth. And man, that was, it just made me want to cry. Actually, I was filled with emotion because I was like, wow. And then they started naming off certain things to look at and things I'd already watched. And it was just like, right down the center of the road. Every now and then we all need our reassurances that we're not crazy, right? Because we spend so much time trying to dissect the truth. And the title of this show is called Fugazi, right? Some people call it Fugazi, some people call it Fugazi. And I thought I would bring that up here, and I'm going to start there with it. Let me pull this up real quick. But I just want everybody to understand the definition of Fugazi. And I've known about this for a long time. There's actually a really awesome band named Fugazi, and love their music. But it's very important. This is just what I'm seeing right now. So I'm going to kind of pull this up here, if it'll let me. There we go. But the definition of Fugazi, it depends on where you're at, is an American slang meaning fake, phony, counterfeit, bogus, or not genuine. It can function as an adjective. That's a Fugazi diamond, or Fugazi promises, or a noun. He's a Fugazi, an imposter fraud. That deal was a total Fugazi. Okay? Now, we're going to go off into the rabbit hole a little bit with it because it just seems like that, we're in some sort of a matrix. And no, I don't mean a physical matrix like my body is plugged into an egg sac somewhere. What I mean is like everything around us seems to be some sort of a lie or a manipulation or a psyop. And it just keeps happening over and over and over again. And we always talk about hindsight being 20/20, right? Because things don't make sense now, but they make perfect sense later. And I know there's a lot of emotions flying around about Donald Trump, the Trump administration, America in war, all of these different things going on. And people tend to have, this is not doom and gloom either, but people tend to have their hands on these hopium pills that I can't seem to find. I don't have the prescription to the hopium pills. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that there isn't light at the end of the tunnel or that there is no hope, right? There's always hope. But my stance is pretty clear, all right? It has to make sense to me. And especially after a decade of waiting for storms to come and all these things, like at some point something's got to drop, right? Or else you just kind of like, it's hard for me to get on that hopium train. And it must be a lot of other people too, because I'm like everybody else. This is my opinion. Who am I? I'm just a small town dude running my mouth, but then I go back and I look at some of this and I see, well, there's a lot of people that actually agree with it, But I'm not up here trying to be right either. I'm just trying to speak truth because we got to know what's coming at us, right? And we started in 2024 with this administration after working for decades to bring this man back into the White House that we thought we were going to drain the swamp. And the truth is the swamp is bigger than ever right now. And God knows what the reasoning behind that is. Maybe we can speculate all day long, but that's the truth. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to stand up here and say, "Oh, we're not winning," or we're in way better shape without Kamala Harris. That's a given. But my God, we've went from. Well, I mean, I've lost a lot of hope that anything's going to change, and especially being that it's August the 12th and we've got midterms coming up, and nothing's changed with our election process. Nothing's changed with, no accountability. And then it looks bleak to me, I hope I'm wrong. But I'm going to start here. Let me pull that up so we talked about that. I'm trying to figure out where exactly that I want to start. But first off, let me just go ahead and throw this up here, guys. We have our next John Birch Society meeting happening August the 20th, Thursday, August the 20th. It's going to be at the same place, Farmer Fork Restaurant. We have Riley Brand is going to be with us from Operation Gospel. We'll be talking about equal protection for preborn babies and the abolition of abortion. And then we're going to be doing a study session on the dangers of democracy. So I hope that I can see some of your faces show up at our second John Birch meeting. I'm super excited. We're having a little powwow tomorrow evening to get that solidified for how we move forward with it. So let me check this real quick. But okay, so I think what I'm going to do is go back. Let's go back to Fauci for a second. Let's just get this out of the way. So a lot of people didn't know how to take what I said back on July 30th about Donald Trump. So I'm going to explain a little bit of it because I think this is very important because, number one, I don't put my faith and my trust in any man, all right? We're here to do things together, and we depend on people and want to put our hope and trust, but ultimately God is in control of this. Jesus is my Savior. But like, I think sometimes we put too much hope in any man on this earth, like they're going to be able to do anything about anything. And I was really taken aback by how Rand Paul, and I like Rand Paul. I got no real issues of Rand Paul. I'm a little skeptical why he's all of a sudden going to Fort Knox when Donald Trump was supposed to go to Fort Knox like the first year and look at the gold, and we never heard anything about that. Like these are the weird anomalies you see when you see the Matrix. Like, why is Rand Paul now going to Fort Knox and looking at our gold? Like, this is an old story that we never even got closure on from a long time ago. So there's something cooking with that, and you question everything. So I'm like, what is the man doing? But I personally found it a little bit insulting that they even invited Anthony Fauci up to the White House on Capitol Hill to even do investigation. I found it insulting only because I knew that Fauci was going to walk in and he was going to walk right back out, Jelly of the Month Club, right? There was no question in my mind that he was going to go up there. Now, the ridiculousness of him pleading the fifth for every single question, that's almost like, to me, like MK Ultra torture, and there were some really good clips. There's some really good clips out of some of our sitting members of Congress or whatnot, Senate, that asked questions, and one guy just ripped into him, and I thought it was great, and I love the fact that Fauci was shaking, but it was insulting. And I had this kind of conversation today. It's like, I'm kind of an idiot, right? Like, I'm not involved in anything special or in any, I'm not one of the mafiosos in the group, but like, I'm just a regular dude paying attention. But when you insult me, it's pretty bad whenever you can see right through this kind of stuff. And this is what I'm talking about, the clown show that we have to endure, because it was insulting. And as much as I like Rand and I know what Rand was doing, I don't know how anybody could have expected a different outcome, right? Or how anybody could have taken that seriously. An entire day of that mass murderer up on Capitol Hill pleading the fifth while he was scolded. And then to be able to get up and walk out of that courtroom. Now, people are, oh, well, they couldn't arrest him. They couldn't do anything. The whole thing was insulting, right? And so I just kind of balked at it. I'm like, hey, I'm working. I do worry about the price of my groceries and my gas bill. I'm one of those people that live paycheck to paycheck. And so, I'm not going to waste my time on it. And I was perfectly fine. And we did a wonderful show that night until I got home and I read this. And I'm going to go back through it because, I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing, but the Patriotic Blonde had posted that night. Let me make sure you can see it here. Right here it is. Trump says he will respect Joe Biden's pardon. Dr. Anthony Fauci will no longer challenge its validity. And so I went and I watched the video, and it was basically Donald Trump just doing Trump. Just saying, well, the auto, we don't know what's going on with the auto pen, but, we're going to respect it. We're going to let Fauci go, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not enraged because Donald Trump couldn't arrest him. Obviously, Donald Trump couldn't arrest him. I was enraged because I could have went to bed that night after the clown show. After the clown show that transpired on Capitol Hill, I could have just went to bed, and Trump could have just, to me, kept his mouth shut. Like, he didn't have to say that. He could have just ignored it, But to hear my president basically say, hey, this guy's going to go back home and go to the Jelly of the Month Club, and we're not going to do anything about it. After not only were we gaslit by the Capitol Hill proceedings, but the auto pen scandal that happened roughly months or to a year before that, when everybody was making a huge deal about the auto pen. And all of these people were like, oh, Donald Trump, the DOJ, they just might take a look at this auto pen and we might do something in it. And that's all it is a series of mights and maybes, and they're conversing and they're questioning and leaving you on the edge of your seat like something's going to happen, I don't do that here. I can't stand it. Either crap or get off the pot. That's how I look at it, right? After all of these years, same thing. Go back 2016 when he told Hillary, because you'd be in jail, and that demon is still running amok. And so that's why I got so mad. I got so mad because he said that. And it felt like a betrayal. It still feels like a betrayal to me, because we just, now we've gotten a week after, or a week and a half, there's supposedly 3 states and 3 DOJs that are looking into charging Fauci, because everybody made a big deal out of that, right? They said, oh, we got all these states and they're gonna look into charging Fauci. And of course, we hadn't heard another thing about that, right? And that we're not going to hear anything about that. There's no state in this union that's going to charge anybody. And it felt like a clear middle finger, all right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of getting the middle fingers for exposing the truth, talking about the truth, just calling things like it is, right? And it shows that the deep state is real, and people like Anthony Fauci can do the things that they do and completely get away with it. A disregard for life. And like I put, and to beat it all, he could have just kept his mouth shut, but he had to come out and say it. I would have been fine if it had happened today on its own and he could have moved on, but he decided, I was pretty harsh. He decided to flick the cigarette in our faces and tell us to piss off peasants. So that's exactly how I feel, right? And time again now, every time I turn on the news and I hear another clip of Trump, like the latest, about now you have this fake MAGA, like neocon group, the Mark Levins and the Ben Shapiros now, that are literally bootlicking Trump, are the ones coming out telling us that we shouldn't be worried about $20 burritos, and hey, if groceries are high, then just use a little less meat and more refried beans. I mean, this is the level of clown show that I can't sit here and idly like pretend is not going on, and Trump seems to be buying it hook, line, and sinker, So again, I'm not giving up on Trump, and I'm not sorry that he's our president. And the main reason I'm not is because whether Donald Trump likes it or not, the providence continues, right? The light shining on the truth continues, and God is ultimately using Donald Trump to expose the deep state to everybody else. No matter how Trump is trying to hide it, or how compromised that the man is, it's getting to points where people can no longer not see it, right? And we've came a long way in a year. We gave a lot of grace here, but I think it's pretty safe to say that we're getting more providence than we ever dreamed of, which is also scary in a way, because it paints a real kind of gloomy future, right? The way that this is going. But it is what it is. I mean, like now, the way I'm looking at things now is that Trump is president. I don't know, honestly, if Trump is commander-in-chief right now. We can go down that road if we need to. I'm sure people will disagree, and many people out there will tell me, just hang on. You haven't seen the plan. Just hang on, and that's fine. But he is my president, and we're going to ride this thing through. But my God, I mean, like, I have to sort of take a step back and be like, well, at this point, it's irrelevant. Like, it's irrelevant. The presidency right now is irrelevant, right? It doesn't mean that we're not getting a few wins here and there, but everything is so questionable and so peculiar. And I point out that the difference between, like, the 2016, 2018 Trump and even the Trump when he was running for office, like, everything made sense. Everything he said made sense. All of his moves were making sense. And now we fast forward to now where, like, everything is questionable. Nothing really makes sense. You have to, like, sit back and disseminate on it and wonder what the heck is really going on, And that sucks. I know it sucks. It sucks to hear. It sucks to think about, but I want to go back as well, because I think I've given Trump a lot of grace, And like I said, I'm not throwing in my towel or nothing, but I want to go back down memory lane, and I want to visit this tweet that he put out. And I just got to find it here. This was back during the Epstein files. And you got to go back and revisit it, because this was this was back during, I can't even remember. This was 2020. Yeah, this is 7/16/2025. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, but a couple of things in here. So obviously he's blaming the Epstein files on the radical left Democrats have hit the pay dirt, blah, blah, blah. And notice how he puts in about the fully discredited Steele dossier, right? Which he's right on. It was a completely falsified document, yet no one has been arrested over the Russian collusion hoax at all. Not a single person. Remember, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. Good Lord, the one that wrote the shells, put the shells in the sand. And remember how the DOJ said they could come back, and they left the case open to prosecute him. Well, he's still walking free, right? So we've had 0 arrests here. The intelligence agents, like the laptop from hell, which is Hunter Biden's laptop. We'll get to that in a minute. That there's been no prosecutions. Now Hunter Biden's on like a world tour to try to tell us how to live, right? Like what's going wrong. We got Hunter Biden out there being our conscience, right? And let's see, Russia, crooked Hillary Clinton, who still walks free. So all this was a deflection on there, and it says we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, which is not a hoax, and I refuse to call it a hoax. And my past supporters have brought into this BS hook, line, and sinker, right? But we got Trump making Q posts, but this was something he said back in 2025. He was so mad. He said, because I don't want their support anymore. And that's kind of a PG version of the things that he's said over and over and over again. And you get to the point where it's like you keep getting kind of flipped off. It's like, okay, Fauci was my final straw, because out of everything that we've been through, guys, everything that we've endured in the last 15, 20 years, all of the wars, which we'll get to, the psyop of COVID, everybody agrees now that COVID was an absolute psyop. It was a huge event to shut down the world. We all know all the vindication that we talk about, and Fauci was kind of the ringleader of this whole thing, and you got Donald Trump not wanting to let go of Operation Warp Speed, which is warp-headed to me. And I get what he's saying, like he's I orchestrated the best carrot. Yeah, but that's not even the point. How bad these shots were, and how many people lost their lives, and how many people lost their lives to the ventilators and the vaccines, and it's all this vindication we have. And so it's a very big deal to me, because you don't live through a psyop like that, taking the kind of abuse that we took. Like, I can speak about it freely now, but you mutter the words a couple years ago, and you were getting completely shut down. Now it's everything that we thought, the worst things that we thought about COVID have came to pass, and we can't even get like a single arrest. And then people are going to say, "Oh, well, his assistant got blah, blah, blah." Yeah, whatever, guys. That's so weak. But I just, that was kind of the last straw for me to just be like, you know what, everything's pretty much irrelevant up after this point, right? But it keeps getting worse, because now he's talking about. He goes into these tangents about, well, I shouldn't have 100% approval, 150% approval, and talks about how people shouldn't be worried about gas prices, and people shouldn't be worried about the price of groceries. And I'm like, guys, there's a huge disconnect right now, something that we've never seen with Donald Trump or this administration. So, either he is completely clueless because he's surrounded by people that are holding this barrier on him, or he's compromised in ways that we can't even imagine right now. But I figured I'd explain that, because there's no reason for me to say anything else about it. All right, we're gonna hope and pray that something happens, and we're always ready on this show for the storm to come. We're always ready. Bring it on, white gloves, white hats, do your thing. Been here for over a decade. I was one of the original people that were looking up those files from the 4chan and 8chan website when they were first dropping. I know all about it. And all I'm saying is, hey, I'm right here. I'm on the right side of things. I'm waiting on it. if this is 58D chess or whatever, I'm along for the ride. But until that happens, this stuff's got to make sense, and a lot of this doesn't make sense to me. So it is what it is, folks. But it also doesn't mean that we, like I don't have to get on here and I hate Donald Trump. This is so stupid, that we don't have to do all that. We're just as spectators here trying to make sense of all this. So I do think that our government is compromised beyond a savable measure. If you've went back and looked, again, this is not only a repeat of like 2016, 2018 under the first Trump administration where the midterms come and we lose it all. But this is a little bit worse because you've got far more people that are trying to drive this thing back onto the road. And our Republicans especially are acting worse than ever. As you can see, John Thune basically came out and told everybody that, hey, we're not going to pass the Save America Act. We're going to go on a 30 to 7 day vacation. We're not going to do any recess appointments, which I can't understand for the life of me why Lindsey Graham is getting a military base named after him, but Donald Trump won't say a thing about John Thune coming back in and being that wall in between him passing recess appointments, right? If you don't know what I mean, he has to come back every few days and reconvene and regavel, and that keeps Trump or anybody else from appointing people into positions of power. So why John Thune gets a pass, but my boy Massey is completely hated is only the things that an upside down world could create. But again, Congress is completely weak and feckless, and most of them are bought and paid for, and it's an absolute shame. It's an absolute shame that we can't even get a move on legislation. I mean, it's beyond a shame. Like, again, the insult to watch Fauci sit there and do the Fifth Amendment on one of the most horrible things probably of my lifetime. But the fact that we can't even get something as simple as the Save America Act passed. And let me remind you folks that, like I said, it's the 12th now. It's way too late. Even now you've got in the news talking about the emergency measures. Well, Trump may file a state of emergency. Trump may do Look, he's got all of this election stuff is so tied up in the courts right now with these federal judges ruling against him at the USPS and Fulton County, Georgia. Look at Fulton County. Nothing has been done in Fulton County. Nothing is going to be done in Fulton County. Even if you pass the Save America Act tomorrow, it wouldn't amount to a hill of beans. They would not be able to have enough time to do it. We've seen that deflection in Georgia. So, I mean, it's pointless to even worry about it. It's just pointless at this time. We spent all year trying to get this thing passed, some simple little bill, and then they used it for leverage on some of the worst legislation you could possibly use it on. They tried to leverage it on the merging the Israeli military through the Pentagon. They tried all kinds of things, and they still let it flop. And again, 37 days, I mean, where are we going to be at? It's not going to work. So I have a note in here. Colton Moore might get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to tell you something. When we had a conversation before he ever ran, I asked him, I said, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to run for this position? Like, I wish we still had him in the state Senate so we could go back and fight with him next year. But I asked him, and he was ready. They were ready to do this, and I said, fine, man. We're going to support you through this, but do you really want to go through this battle? And at the time, I things were looking pretty good. We didn't know that, Donald Trump was going to put him through what he did. But I'm kind of glad. I say this because I don't think that our Congress even deserves Colton Moore or Thomas Massey or Tim Burchett or any of these people that are standing alone trying to fight for something to happen there. So it kind of breaks me a little bit more free of this whole clown show because I'm glad. I don't think that Congress deserves Colton Moore as bad as it is right now. And as fake as it is. So that being said, I haven't spoken to him personally since all of that transpired. But I wish the best for him and his wife, because I don't know how. I wouldn't want to be up there in the middle of all this. That's for sure. I mean, it's such a disaster right now. But a lot of people are asking me about how I feel about the Republican Party, and what I think about the nominees, and what I think about Georgia. And I'm going to do everybody a little bit of a favor moving forward, because we got a lot of good shows planned. But I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut to help the Republican Party. That's the best thing I can do. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I've decided that I'm just going to kind of, we spent half a year doing everything we could, our due diligence, to pull people in and gather people up. And I've made some good acquaintances with people, and I'm still talking to some of those people that lost that are going to be in the process. But the best thing that I can do is just shut up, right? And just let things play out like they are. So that's kind of how we're going to handle this political sphere moving forward into November. Because, that's the only thing, that's the only favor I can do to the Republican Party. Because, like it or not, we call it a uniparty. It is a uniparty in so many ways, but the Democrats are attached to things that are so like demonic and so anti-human, and that you can clearly say that it's safer to have even a rhino in an office that is absolutely worthless, right? We're not going to get any serious wins at all, but we're dang sure not going to let the worst part of our political culture slip off into oblivion, like they did in Massachusetts the other night, where you had a room full of cackling hags. A room full of cackling hags clapping and laughing about signing abortion up until birth. Jesus. That's what I mean by Democrat Party. Like, anybody who can condone that, right? Like, I can't live with myself. You couldn't pay me $1 million to have to sit in a room with those cackling hags from Massachusetts that did that so openly and publicly the other day. I mean, it's just pure demonic sleaze. And that's the kind of stuff that's attached to the Democrat Party. Even you say what you will about having a intellectual conversation about the issue, but my God, that is abhorrent to a level that I could never, ever be a part of. And so, at the very least, obviously, if you're going to vote, you've got to vote Republican, because even the sleaziest rhino is not going to be caught, in a room like that laughing and clapping. So, that I keep my mouth shut about it and let these things play out, So, I want to move on to a couple more videos, and I'll get to some comments here in just a little bit. And like I said, the phone lines are open. I wanted to play, let's do the executive orders next, because this is something that is bothering me. So I haven't went full tilt on it. FDA approves first mRNA flu vaccine after high-profile reversal. This is from U.S. News, and it basically talks about how now the Food and Drug Administration has approved the first ever mRNA flu vaccine, a shot that will use new technology to target evolving viruses and streamline vaccine production faster than traditional processes. So it's called Mflusiva, and it's just nasty. Of course, it says the flu remains one of the largest modern-day health concerns, killing around 300,000 people worldwide per year. And the 2024-25 season recorded 45,000 deaths. So I want to remind everybody out there that statistic, the years that we were going through the COVID pandemic, we had 0 flu deaths. Maybe a couple, but they were way down. It was all COVID deaths, but now it's back to flu deaths. So, you make your own assessment about that, right? The flu just disappeared while COVID was around, and supposedly COVID's still around, but now the flu is back up and running. But I wanted to highlight this. What is mRNA? Because, like I said, we just need to keep educated. Messenger RNA, or mRNA, is a molecule found in all human cells that carries genetic instructions from a cell's DNA to its protein-making machinery. Sounds technocratic. The technology used in mRNA vaccines instruct the body's cells to build a temporary harmless protein that acts like a virus to set off the body's immune system response. It trains the body's immune system to fight off diseases without a live virus. Most notably, it was the technology used in COVID-19 vaccines given to hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Well, guess what? It was not given to me. I've never had a COVID shot, never had a flu shot, and I never will over my dead body. You can keep the crap. I highlighted that because there was some ongoing situations last week where the military has now been mandated to use these flu shots. And so I had to do a little bit digging, and this is what it says. Let's just read we'll read the AI version of this. It says, the premise is false. The Trump administration did not mandate an mRNA flu vaccine for the military. In fact, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made the longstanding annual flu vaccine requirement optional for all U.S. troops, citing medical autonomy and religious freedom. A mandatory flu shot policy was later selectively reinstated only for new military boot camp recruits following a flu outbreak, not as an overreaching mRNA. I don't know about this, but according to this, it says that following a notable influenza outbreak at Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland Air Force Base, the military quickly brought back the mandatory flu vaccinations strictly for new trainees and recruits. So to me, that seems a little stretchy. You have one little flu outbreak at one base, and then all of a sudden they bring back the mandatory for new recruits at the same time that they've approved an mRNA flu vaccine. It just seems so sketchy to me after all we know. I mean, this is real sketchy. So I don't like it at all. This would definitely be a breaking point to me if I were to go into the military. But again, our military, bless their hearts, they get pumped all kinds of crazy crap in them. So it's just concerning because of this next piece that I want to cover. This is an executive order here, and Trump orders reduces U.S. vaccine schedule, seeks to split MMR shots. So let's go through this a little bit because this is good news, right? It's good news. Trump limits childhood immunizations to 11 vaccines, cites link between vaccines and autism that has been debunked. Physicians reject move, say it will heighten disease risk. Of course they say that, but he signed an executive order on Monday calling for fewer childhood vaccinations by limiting the inoculation schedule to 11 immunizations, which he said would give U.S. children gold standard protection and align the country with peer nations that recommend fewer shots. Now, I'm all for this. I am all for this. All right. However, it being so close to an election year, and I try to be a little positive, right? But again, look, we have said this from the very beginning. You cannot govern by executive orders. You can't do it unless you codify something in legislation. All of your executive orders can be thrown out the window the minute somebody else steps in, right? And this executive order, although good, it is exactly what it is, an executive order. And I can't help but point out that I think what it is people are looking, they're looking for something to be happy about. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that just has to find the rain cloud in everything that we do, right? I don't. But again, this is an executive order. And there was somebody pointed out a post from 18 months ago, yesterday or this morning, that, hey, there was an executive order to end the Department of Education. And 18 months later, we still have the Department of Education. We've not moved at all in that area. So, again, this is just an executive order, man. We have to have Congress codify this stuff or else it goes right back out the window. So, again, if we don't understand that and we don't, say it into the ether, I want to celebrate just as much as anybody else, but do you think that they're going to do you think about the pushback of getting this 11 immunization, program put in? And school's already started back, most people have already got their immunization. So I don't know what this is. Maybe too little, too late. I don't know. We've had 2 years of what I think is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fighting against a total global establishment of pharmaceutical companies that are trying to kill Maha. And then I got this sent to me as well, that inside that executive order, and I can't confirm this, but I'm going to go ahead and at least say it, that inside of this executive order, it says this order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit substantive or procedural enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employers, agents, or any other person. So basically what I've been told is that this holds no weight whatsoever. Now, I'm not trying to be the bringer of bad news, but it's fake government. And I don't mean that on Trump. What I'm saying is what good is any of this if it cannot be enforced? If it's just an executive order? It's no different than a data center pledge that pledges that the data centers are going to pay for their own electricity. There is nothing in stone that would require this to happen. So, again, it's all thrills and happiness and let's throw up the balloons, but it is another executive order that's going to sit on the shelf. In my opinion, I want to be wrong. I hope that I'm wrong on that. But it's disturbing to me how you can go from 1 week to FDA approving an mRNA flu vaccine shot to, hey, we're going to pull back the vaccines for children, but it's in an executive order that doesn't amount to much. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm trying to make sense of. It's like, how do you go from that one extreme to the other? And it just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to cover that. So let me get into election integrity for a minute. Now, mind you, I'm pretty low on election integrity, right? But I want to cover this because it's so funny to me how Georgia can pass a QR code bill to get rid of the QR codes, and it literally sit there for 2 years being completely ignored, with people kicking, screaming, just going to every meeting and highlighting it until we go to a phony special session that was supposed to be about redistricting, but we all know what it was. It was to kick the QR code. We watched it in real time, more people than ever, highlighting just how insane this last legislative session was, and we got nothing, right? And it is so funny to me how these people can literally ignore a law on the books only to kick it down the road. But now they're Johnny on the spot, right? They're Johnny on the spot. Brad Raffensperger is mailing awards to himself, saying how great that he is. And it's laughable. It's so laughable. But so this is something I was going to picked up. This was around July 20th. New panel begins work reviewing options for Georgia's next election system. Of course, now they're Johnny on the spot. They got the law they wanted. They kicked the can down the curb. And now here we are. They're just hitting it hot and heavy. A committee tasked with helping select Georgia's next statewide election system is scheduled to hold its first meeting next week as lawmakers, election officials, and other appointed members begin to envision a QR code-free method of voting, right? So the use of the QR codes have been a contentious issue throughout the last several years in Georgia, including the Democrats back during COVID. Proponents of hand-marked paper ballots have repeatedly called for ballots to be counted based on text that can be deciphered by humans, which is Georgia election law to begin with, so the whole thing's illegal anyway. Prompting state lawmakers to pass a bill a couple years ago preventing elections from being tallied using QR codes after July 26. 2 years ago. However, legislators failed to appropriate the roughly $66 million needed to make the switch and did not postpone the deadline during the 2026 session. So Governor Kemp summoned lawmakers back to Capitol earlier this summer for a special session to address the looming election deadline. So now they're not even hiding anymore. That was what it was all about. Now they're telling you. That's what it was about, guys. We lied about all the other crap just to get everybody in the room. And now under their new law, which uses machines to mark voter selections and prints a completed paper ballot, will remain in place until 2028. Now, that keep in mind, folks, that yes, they kick the can down the road and they don't have to do a dang thing till 2028. So envision the fact that you're, again, going to go, you've went to every single jungle primary. We've had 78 elections and you're going to be voting on the same machinery. Nothing's changed. And it's gonna be the same thing when you go into November. You're going to have to participate in the same clown show. And they gripe about the $66 million, although I think we owe $170 million on Dominion and blah, yada, yada. And it's always about the money, but it ain't about the money. But just keep in mind that you're going to go back through the same process in November. Nothing has changed. And I wanted to highlight this quote by Governor Kemp. Quote, as a former Secretary of State and current governor, I know firsthand just how much our system of governance rests on being able to trust the results of the ballot box. When I read this quote, I was like, what? I'm going to read it again. As a former Secretary of State and current governor, I know firsthand just how much our system of governance rests on being able to trust the results of the ballot box. I mean, this is insane. Oh, I look forward to the recommendations from the committee on how we can preserve that trust. Do you realize how absolutely insane that quote is? Oh, that got me. That got me. That quote is absolutely hilarious. That Brian Kemp has said that after all of this has been going on. It's like, wow, you talk about they're laughing at us. I know I'm laughing at that, but they are laughing at us, man. They whew, that right there is insane. So I'll go on to read just a little bit more so we'll know who's on this committee now. The governor's appointees to the committee include the former state election director, Chris Harvey, Paulding County election supervisor, Deidre Holden, and Kemp's executive counsel, Sam Hatcher. So you got 3 Kempers on the board immediately. That's a good sign. Several Republican lawmakers, including Senator Max Burns of Sylvania, Representative Victor Anderson of Cornelia, will also sit on the committee, according to a press release issued, blah, blah, blah. Covington Rep. Tim Fleming, the Republican nominee. So Tim Fleming will be in there working real hard. And Scott Holcomb of Atlanta is the only Democrat who was appointed to the committee. So again, not looking too good in from what I can see, because you got to remember the state election board were the ones that recommended the QR codes be gone. The Blue Ribbon Election Task Force, Tim Fleming headed up. That's their recommendation. We should get rid of the QR codes. And we still have the QR codes. So they did not even follow their own recommendations. It's laughable at this point. It's laughable at this point. All right. So again, so this one more I wanted to share on that. I saw this today all on Georgia, and new advisory group will champion. I'm sorry, guys. This is funny to me. The way they word this. New advisory group will champion election security, enhance transparency, and boost public confidence. I'm sorry. This cracks me up. Like, these people should be comedians here. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger today announced the formation of a bipartisan election integrity task force, bringing together highly respected leaders, election officials, and policy experts. So, blah, blah will serve as an ongoing forum of leaders. I mean, we're in good hands, folks. Georgia has the most secure, quote, Georgia has the most secure elections in America, and we intend to keep it that way. Oh, I'm sure that you do, Secretary Raffensperger. This bipartisan group brings together leaders with different backgrounds and perspectives who share a commitment to protecting every lawful vote and strengthening public confidence in our elections. So, laughable. So, members of the Election Integrity Task Force include Drew Ferguson from Democracy Defense Foundation. Remember, democracy is that dirty little word for socialism, right? Yeah, that's the dirty little word for socialism. So, Drew Ferguson, Democracy Defense Foundation. Former Governor Roy Barnes, Democracy Defense. Wasn't he the attorney for Fonnie Willis in that clown show that happened? Was that Roy Barnes? I can't remember. But anyway, former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin from Democracy Defense Foundation, and former U.S. Senator Zaxby Chambliss from Democracy Defense Foundation. Ben Ginsburg, who I have heard of, and then former State Senator Don Balfour, a senior advisor to the Democracy Resilience Network, Joseph Kirk, Bartow County, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you can read this on there, but yeah, I just, we're in good hands, folks. We're in good hands. Nothing to see here. They're going to make sure that we get the absolute best in Georgia, and that we continue to maintain the flagship for election integrity in Georgia. And, Fulton County should probably be studied as the safest county for elections in all the world. Actually, they probably should get the award for like the best election process. That should go to Fulton County. They beat the world on this. Man, okay, it's just clown world. It's total clown world, but So I'm going to kind of speed it on up here a little bit. Let me get rid of some of these tabs while I'm looking. Tell me if I am off here, if, I want it all to make sense, and it just doesn't feel that good right now. So I'm going to move into AI here for just a second. I got a clip here from Owen Schroyer, and I wanted to highlight this because this is something that I put in my last... I put this in my last special I did about artificial intelligence, and I had a good little conversation about this today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here and just listen to it, because I was skeptical, and I'll explain what I mean in just a second. But let's just hear a little bit from Owen Schroyer here.
All right, AI is apparently escaping again. OpenAI cyber models broke out of training environment to hack Hugging Face. So we keep hearing about this. OpenAI said that its AI models were behind an unprecedented cyber incident that impacted Hugging Face. The models escaped a sandbox testing environment, accessed internet, and exploited a vulnerability to gain access to Hugging Face systems, OpenAI said. The incident is unique because it was driven end-to-end by an autonomous AI agent system. The developer platform, that is the Hugging Face that this AI existed on. I have a question. Now, we keep hearing about these stories. This is a tough one with AI to try to address this. And this is a big part of the news cycle today with Trump talking about AI, this story about AI escaping.
Have you ever wanted to see your home from space?
I'll stop it from there.
With this free satellite Earth Maps tool, you can zoom.
Commercials. Anyway, I wanted to bring that up a little bit because I covered this in my last special about AI, right? Because the bottom line is well, I think what you need to understand is that I think on the ground, a lot of us are going to continue to fight. I'm working with some people right now. We're working on a data center ordinance ban. We're also working with Lee Munns on his guidelines moving forward for data centers. It's wonderful material. But you have to understand that, this is not going away. Artificial intelligence, the things are building. And so a lot of this stuff, especially when you go to the more left-leaning sites and you look at because they get the right is paralyzed on artificial intelligence and data centers, right? They're completely paralyzed because you got Donald Trump saying this is a great thing, it's a cash cow, we got to have them because of China, so they use the fear and they use the polarization for Trump that you can't say something about this. You got to shut up, just be quiet. Don't ask any questions because Donald Trump loves it, right? And so it's created this crazy weird paradigm because like things that we would normally be kind of questioning and scratching our head about or asking questions expecting a decent answer, you're not getting, right? And so on the left of this is you've got these reporters sitting down with, Claude, Anthropic, ChatGPT, you name it, Grok, and asking these questions, and they're basically saying that quiet part out loud. They're like, hey, we're building this artificial intelligence. We're working on it. Now we're in a race, AI race, because other countries are getting involved and China is technologically advanced. And we got to do this. And we got to make data centers and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to get up to AGI, ASI. And they also tell you about the dangers of it. They tell you about the dangers. Well, we don't know exactly what we're doing. We don't know how to contain it with blah, blah, blah. And so everything over there is they try to sell you that their first foremost priority is America's safety, the citizens. We want human beings because we're creating technology to make your life easier. Now, that doesn't make sense whenever you have a data center push, such as what's going on in Georgia, where these things are being literally pushed into counties without the consent or even answering questions from the people, right? That doesn't make sense. But they sell this sort of doom and gloom like, well, we don't know what they're doing. So I spoke to somebody today who's kind of an expert in that field. We'll have on the show next week. And I asked him that question. I said, how much of this, because we talked about this same incident about Hugging Bear. And basically, let me break it down to you so you understand. They test this AI out in what they call sandboxes. And so basically, they're like cut off from everything else. And they don't limit what this stuff can do. What they do is they stretch the limits. They see what AI can do. And unfortunately, no sandbox they can put it in. It's like a digital box that you probably throw questions at it or try to get it to figure things out. Nothing. That's just like your computer. There's always a back door. There's always a piece of code that can be manipulated by a hacker or somebody. And so the sandboxes are the same thing. And the artificial intelligence is getting so smart that it's able to just find these small windows, these small back doors, and completely manipulate the software. And it can do anything it wants. It hacks into systems and all. And so they test all this stuff out, but it's becoming more and more of an issue where the smarter it gets and the more advanced it gets, the better it is at breaking out of these sandboxes or whatever. So you got to understand that. And so I asked the question. I said, well, how much of this is just hyperbole as a advertising gimmick, and how much of it is real? And the person told me, said both. Actually, it's both. They, why would you let a tragedy go to waste, or something like a calamity? So they are using it to sell that fear, right? Because we all live off of sex and fear, right? Anything that involves sex and fear, we're always looking vicariously. But again, this stuff is really happening, and when you talk to people in the industry who understand so much more than what we understand, have seen the capabilities of this, then you understand that this stuff, there really is a threat out there, right? And my biggest concern is how do human beings think that they're capable of containing that threat? So, but either way, that if that question gets answered or not, I don't think any of this is going anywhere. And we're going to have to kind of be forced to understand it at the very least, because I can promise you one thing, it's not going to be kind to people who don't, right? And that does not mean that I'm prepared to take a mark of the beast or, join into some, civilization where, I become under the slave state. No, I think I'd run from that, really, to be honest with you. But it also doesn't hurt to get a little bit more educated on what's coming so that you can prepare. Because ultimately, and a lot of people think that one thing that Trump is going to usher in, and I don't mean Trump as the person, I'm talking about the president, where all this leads is to the de-dollarization. All right, it leads to a digital currency where they want to get away. And if you think about it in the broad context, forget about Trump. They've already done away with the penny, right? They said, the penny's worthless. Now every time you go to the store, they're either rounding up or rounding down. That's one coin gone. We're hyper focused on the stock market, on all these microtransactions, and everything's digital now. Tap your card, tap. It's not. I mean, it's plausible that we're going to see money go away. Like hard cash, right? And it's weird when I go back to the beginning about Rand Paul. Why is he going to Fort Knox for? Why is he doing that now when Donald Trump was supposed to do that like a year ago? I don't get it. But a lot of people seem to think that this is the time. The next few years, the currency is going to change to digital currency. Now, what I've been told is that the people, basically that, I guess people like us who are not going to be a part of this, technocratic revolution, they're going to put us on like a universal basic income because there's not going to be a lot to do, right? It's going to change things. They promise job losses. They promise a change in society. And so I know people now that are, learning how to decentralize this artificial intelligence, right? Now, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know if I ever will. But it does pay to understand that regardless of who's president right now or what's going on, there is a huge push that's been years in the making. I covered flock cameras. They've been around since 2017. 2019 is when they were first installed. Now there's reports coming out that Flock wants to strike a deal with like Uber and Lyft to put these things inside these people's cars so that everybody can be tracked. I mean, the surveillance state is already upon us. And that's not even covering Axum, which is like the next big tech company that everybody's invested in, that their cameras are out of this world. They put them in light poles. But, I mean, this stuff is coming at us. And they've changed the excuse. They've changed the goalpost of excuse so many times. I don't think they're going to answer any questions. I do think that it pays now to fight like hell, to fight as much as you can to keep these things off of us. I'm going to try to get a data center ordinance ban put in my county. I have make no bones about it because I don't want data centers in my county, right? Let them put them somewhere else. Worry about your county. But that's how I feel about it, and I make no bones about it. I don't want them here, but that doesn't mean that this is not going to happen. So be prepared because they already had their foot in the dirt. The shovel was in the dirt before we ever knew what was going on, and we got to start catching up. We got to start bridging that gap from like 10 steps ahead to maybe like 3 steps ahead where we can get on it. So it's just something I wanted to keep you guys to keep on the forefront of the conversation. So I'm already past an hour. I want to go through comments. I had a whole page here on going into the Iran war, Muslims, how the America Christians are trapped between this Muslim side and like this Israel side, and it seems like that we're in the middle getting squished, and there's a lot of things going on, and we clearly can see that there's some very compromising forces out there, right? And part of this this whole narrative is to keep us divided and fighting down here. And why do we allow all of these people to come into America and weaken our culture and integrate our culture and challenge our religions? That's not my fault or your fault. This is the same government that's been allowing this stuff to happen, the same people, the same players, and it's all the whole replacement migration. It's designed to destroy us. It's designed to weaken America, and it's working. It's working, and we should not be over in the sandbox. We should be back on our American soil dealing with the problems we have here. But unfortunately, this presidency is now being sort of taken over by, again, world politics, war, It's a sad thing for me to see, but I'm not going to even go into that tonight because I could spend another 30 minutes on it. But guys, just remember, man, we've been over there fighting for a long time, and what have we really got to show for it? And this whole fiasco of Iran, and believe me, I am no Iran sympathizer whatsoever. I could care less. I don't care about them. I don't care about Israel. I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care about all that. What I care about is peace, and I care about our American soil and our hegemony and our religion and our borders and our infrastructure, and not America only, America first. And we've not gotten any America first. Instead, what we're getting is shut up about your grocery bill, shut up about your gases. We're going to annihilate an entire country over what? And that's how I feel about it in the nutshell. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut it loose a little bit here. Let me bring back up I think I got rid of my restream, so I can bring back up the comments. I hope I didn't screw that up. Maybe I didn't, but I accidentally exited off my restream, and yeah, dadgummit. I do apologize, folks. I accidentally clicked off restream, and I've lost all my comments. I wonder if I could get it back. That would be awesome if I could get it back, but you'll have to forgive me, folks. I had so many windows open that I accidentally clicked off of it. So I'll go back and try to see if I can answer any of the comments here after the show. But dadgummit, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't get any call-ins tonight. And I don't even know now if my chats are hooked up. You'll have to forgive me. I will go back and answer as much as I can. But anyway, bottom line is we don't give up hope. We continue to move through whatever's coming at us. I don't know how this ends. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm just looking at a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding. Maybe all this leads to something great. If this is like the 70 chess, I'm not seeing it. My door is always open to it, right? Again, my door is always open to it, but it just seems like things have just went downhill, and who knows where this is going to lead. But we do have important midterms coming up in November, and by the looks of things, there's going to be a sea change. And again, I stand by my, I vote Republican. But again, I'm going to keep my mouth shut about the majority of that's going on and try to help as much as I can. But I don't know, man. It's just I don't know. Maybe I want the good things to happen. But as long as we're tied up in more wars, I don't see very many good things happening. When I'm not a socialist, I don't believe that, the federal government should pay for daycare, right? But when you have the president stand up and say that the top priority, let the states figure it out, it's just kind of a callous comment to make, like it's a callous comment to make, telling people that they need to spread their meat out and put some more refried beans in their burrito, and then you pull a Ben Shapiro and you make fun of people for not being able to afford this when, I'm a working man. I work for every penny that I make and keep a roof over my children's head, and keep a roof over my family, and we have animals, and we have car payments and gas bills, and my kids. One of my kids in college, I can't even imagine if they were out on their own right now. Now, I'm not blaming Trump for this, but I mean, this is where we're at in America. I can't even imagine my child, who is on the dean's list, who is doing remarkable in school. I could not imagine my child having to pay for rent, insurance, anything else on their own. And that's just the way it is. And those are the things that we should be focusing on. And I read a pretty good comment today that said, we shouldn't be measuring our metrics by the top 1%, but by the bottom 30%. And I agree with that, right? Even in the military, it says, leave no man behind. Well, it sounds to me like a lot of us bottom feeders aren't getting any attention by this sort of elitist mentality that, hey, why don't you just pucker up and shut up, It's insulting. And I might be a little bit more optimistic if we'd have got one good arrest, right? If just one arrest out of anything, like just somebody that had some accountability. But instead we get Fauci making a mockery out of Capitol Hill and walking out of there, going back to the Jelly a Month Club. And then our president saying, well, we're going to let him off the hook. And to me, that's where you kind of lose me at. That's where I sort of kind of give up, throw my hands in the air and say, well, this is irrelevant at this point, right? I mean, what more do you expect? What do you expect from people like me? What do you expect? That we just continue the charade? Like, what good would it be for me to sit up here and pretend like that didn't happen, or pretend like that wasn't insulting, right? Because Donald Trump and this administration, they work for me. They work for you. At any rate, we're equal. All right? This man, none of these people are better than any of us on the ground. We are equal, and we are especially equal in the eyes of the Lord. And don't let any other person or religion tell you any otherwise. We are all saved through the blood of Christ. We are all equal in Christ's eyes. And that's the way it's going to be. You're never going to change my mind on that. And again, love Trump, but don't blame me for pointing out the horrible rhetoric that is coming out of this administration, where it just seems like they don't give two craps about us, right? I'm happy that childhood immunizations will be looked at on an executive order as possibly being implemented before that executive order gets tossed in the trash. But I'm not real happy about an mRNA flu shot now, that I get a text message every 3 days from my pharmacist telling me, hey, why don't you come down and get one of the new mRNA shots, which I won't do. So again, we just keep moving forward because God knows what's coming, right? And we've got I think we're going to have a rough November, and then on the other side of that, we'll have to deal with it. And that's all there is to it. And Smallton Underground, we're going to continue to maintain truth, and we're going to continue to keep a little bit of that hope, that little spark alive, that things are going to get better and that things are going to make sense, and that hope that maybe some of these people will come to their senses and realize that things are not that good, They need to be better, and that was what we voted for, was to make it better, and we had the opportunity to make it better. There's no excuse at this point, right? So, again, I apologize for the comments tonight. I lost them all, but I will go back and try to fill that up. Thank you for watching Small 10 Underground. A couple special interviews and reports coming next week. And as always, thanks again. Like, share, subscribe, help me out. Share this far and wide. Support your local podcasters. Support your local failed podcasters all across the state that are out here just trying to make sense of this. And you can join me in the morning. Good Lord, I done forgot what the podcast name was. But anyway, I'll be on with Steve Phillips in the morning. And I'm out. You guys have a wonderful evening. We'll see you later.
Legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
He said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from the Libertarians, that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.